What's up guys, Peepo here, and today's video is going to be about the ECD or East Coast Dies Mirage head. It's the brand new head from ECD, came out in 2016, right near the end there, so along with their new Vortex mesh, which both of them combined is pretty sweet combo, but we're here to talk about just the head. So it is universal spec, so it'll meet any specifications of prerequisites for any league or anything like that. So high school, college, youth, everything. It's universal, 3 inches. I believe when I measured the scoop it was like 6.5, just under 7, something like that. But either way, it is universal spec. You can use it wherever you want. Upon first checking out the head, I really liked it. It kind of reminded me of the old Clutch X's before they moved on to like the Clutch 2 and the Clutch Elite and everything, which I don't mind the Clutch Elite, but the Clutch X had a lot of really good forthcoming things about it. It had a multitude of holes, good offset and everything like that. And I know they probably took some ideas away from some of the better heads that are out there, as well as their own notes and wants and desires when it came to a high performance head. Now, this head, I wouldn't say is really focused towards your beginner player, but I mean, it's wide enough, doesn't have a totally unforgiving scoop, but it does have a rather flat scoop, so I don't think it really caters well to the younger players that are just going to kind of dig into the ground. I would recommend something with a little bit more of a rounded backside of the scoop and everything like that. It is definitely for the elite player, or your intermediate player and above. Nice. It may be universal in 3 inches and everything, but it still has a very tight throat channel area, and then it splays out into its scoop. But all in all, I mean, as far as face shape is concerned, I definitely like it. It's, again, not too tight, but it's definitely not too wide to where you feel like the ball's going to rattle out. Let's see. Sorry, I'm admiring the head, the dye job that I got, which I'll do another video about this later. But so, moving into the actual sidewalls, your sidewall design has 3 struts. I'm sure they've done their research and everything like that. There's really no pinching or anything like that that can really occur except for like right here. But I wouldn't recommend this for face-offs. It's a little too stiff, and you'll probably snap that the bottom rail. I wouldn't really recommend it. But using just 3. Nowadays you're seeing like 2s, 3s, sometimes 4, but 4 struts is usually a little too much for like an offensive head. Most of the time you'll just see 2 or 3 in some form or fashion, but I feel that they did a pretty good job of using as little as possible, but still having enough to where it's effective and able to keep the head rigid, which by the sidewall designs, I really got to squeeze for that bottom rail to really get it pinched, which, I mean, with it being as stiff as it is, you could probably use it for LSM. Personally, I wouldn't really recommend it, because there's somewhat better heads out there as far as stiffness is concerned, that it'll work a little bit better for you. But all in all, for offensive, I definitely like what they've done with the stiffness and sidewall structure. Moving into the actual sidewall holes, you have a decent amount. You don't have 29 holes like their competitor, which you can go watch my video about that if you want. But as far as having enough sidewall holes to get the job done, they more than meet the mark. There's definitely no requirement for more on this head, and I don't think they should go any less for the next one. I think the holes are pretty much in the perfect spot, whether it's mesh or traditional. I'll show you this. So I was discussing this with some of the guys at ECD on whether or not we'd be able to fit the leathers into the sidewall holes. Well, because of how the structure of most pockets happen in lacrosse heads, especially for relatively inexperienced or slightly beginner traditional stringers, most of the time you'll have guys just go straight through the bottom holes, and then you have a very distinct narrowness to what happens to the leathers. They'll just kind of pinch here at the bottom, whereas you can see this, the bottom's still fairly spaced as far as the leathers are concerned. And that's because I can fit a regular 8-ounce leather, which is your generic leather size and weight, can fit rather easily into the sidewall hole, but I pretty much only use the bottom sidewall hole because I didn't really need it as far as sidewall structure is concerned for my traditional in it. The holes are big enough to have, pretty much all of the sidewall holes are big enough to have a double wrap in it, or if you're saucy, you can definitely fit a triple wrap around in it. For your top sidewall holes, it has more than enough for a double or a triple wrap if you need. For your for your mesh, your second sidewall hole is what I would recommend for starting your top string. If you use the very top one, like I have my traditional starting there, if you use that very top one for mesh, it's going to kind of get bunched up here, and you're not going to have a super tight top string area, or your first knots aren't going to be as tight as they really should be if you're trying to have a nice tight channel. Top holes, as you can see, are more than enough space for traditional, so you can definitely do a double triangle top string or any sort of fancy top string that would require a little bit more string or knots going on. There are 6, so you can get very custom. You can do a just plain old 6. 4, you can probably do with the whole concept of the bottom area, you can do a 6-shooter easily enough with a traditional. So pretty much they really nailed it as far as spacing and sizing for all their holes. The bottom string holes are big enough for 8-ounce leathers easily, spaced out pretty much perfectly, or generically perfect, to other heads out there for a bottom string hole, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. Like I was saying, the scoop is a little flat, so I mean, it as far as protecting your top string because of the dynamics of the scoop, it shouldn't, on just regular scooping, maybe not raking, but regular scooping, it shouldn't rub the string or leathers really, so you don't really have to worry about that. It is a single screw head. There's really no holes or spaces going from front to back or anything like that. It's a very solid plastic throat. The screw is, I want to say it's about the position of most STX heads, but if anything, all you have to do is flip around the shaft if you don't have an ECD brand shaft, which is your Focus, your Scandium Focus shaft, which is their metal, or their Carbon or Carbon Pro shafts, which is the carbon fiber shafts. It'll meet up just fine with those, but it might not meet up with any other head out there. But hey, it doesn't hurt to try. But all in all, rather short throat, but it's very solid, so there's really no wiggle. I haven't put it on a shaft yet, any of my shafts that I have in my repertoire, that it rattles, even before I put the screw in. So all in all, very solid. They put it in the right spot. They did a really solid structure. As you can see, it kind of has almost the perfect angle for the leathers not to really move if you tie them up correctly. So I'm not too dissatisfied as far as traditional is concerned. Mesh, I've strung it up enough times. Excuse me. Strung it up enough times that I'm not too worried about it. But again, very stiff head, not the stiffest out there, so pick your poison if you really want to use it for LSM. I would not use it for D-pull, and I would not use it for face-offs. But all in all, very solid head, especially for a first head. I know they were supposed to try and release it last spring, so spring of 2016. right around. They were supposed to unveil it and everything at the LaxCon last year, which they did, but there was a lot of feedback, not necessarily negative, but constructive, to where they had to sit back and be like, you know what, we need to make some changes. And whatever they ended up doing, which I don't know all the details as to what they changed, I think the constructive criticism as well as the negative criticism that came towards that, I guess now you can call it a prototype, were good, very solid, and helped ECD come out with something that's easily competitive against all the other heads out there. Believe it's $90. Yes, it should be like $89.99, but $90, which is the usual price for your mid to high end heads that are out there. So like your clutches and everything like that, they're right around $90. Most of the Mavericks are $90. String King's new one is right around $90. So a lot of your higher end heads are right around $90. So it, for their first head, I don't really have anything as far as complaints about price wise, and then I definitely don't have anything to complain about structure wise. Since this was probably one of the earlier ones, I haven't really seen too many people have any die issues. But I mean, you get some bad batches, and that's fine. That makes perfect sense. But near the injection point on this for my die, it kind of had a weird reaction there. But the good thing is, it doesn't really take away from it. It kind of makes it look like the ribbon has wings, so I'm not mad at all. And stuff happens. You're not gonna. I've seen so many bad injection point areas throw off dies, and you're just like, oh, that would have been a sweet die. You know what? It happens. So that is not necessarily a negative to me. It's on the scoop. The scoop gets filthy, gets scratched up and destroyed. So that doesn't bother me at all. Again, structure-wise, really great head, made in the USA. What can you ask for there? Well, you can't really ask for more. All their materials are made in the USA. So if you go and get a pre-strung one, which they do offer them with an elite pocket with hero mesh, semi-soft hero mesh, all white, and then also striker, white and black striker. So I think that's like 120, 130, something like that. Maybe even 110. I don't know. But so I'm not here for prices. I'm here to tell you about the head. For that price, I think that's a very solid pickup for as far as a already pre-strung head, and it's a good pocket. I know for a fact because I strung enough of them. But great head. I'm really happy how it turned out, and great job, ECD. I mean, I can't wait to see the next one. If you guys come out with a D-pull head, I mean, if you guys actually come out with a D-pull head, I am very expectant of it. You guys went real low-key with the aesthetics, too. There's a little bit of gloss, a little bit of matte coloring here and there, and then you just have Mirage, and then an ECD crab emblem in the middle here in the throat, and then made in the USA on the back side of the throat. So very simple, all-around great head. So without rambling too far on, I'm going to end the video, and hopefully you guys got a little bit of info out of the ECD Mirage, the new head from ECD. Definitely one of the better pickups, I would have to say, for the 2017 season. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll check you later.